Hello, I'm Xochitl Mora with the City of McAllen. Welcome to On 1300. We have a very special guest with us today. Joining us, our very own Mayor Jim Darling.
Good afternoon.
Hello, Mayor. Thank you so much for joining us in studio. We're so pleased to have you. It's been a while that we've had a chance to sit and talk, but we've been in constant communication as the City of McAllen, as the rest of this area, the state, and the world is responding to the COVID-19 pandemic crisis. We are now starting to see a little bit of the tightening of the regulations that had been in place for safety and guidelines and precautions for our area. Governor Abbott just announced, obviously, that we're going to do a soft reopening of Texas. Can you tell us about that and how the City of McAllen is going to be making all of that possible for our community?
Sure. You know, how kind of this all works, the federal government came out with guidelines, and the CDC were guidelines, and a national emergency was created, but they left it up to states really to how it was going to be implemented. And so then you had the governors, most states doing that, and left it up to some of and were recommendations more than actual requirements, and left it up to local governments to kind of do some of those things. And so now it's kind of worked that way, but it's still kind of recommendation. Where now in Texas, it's different, where the governor said, here's the way it's going to be rolled out, and kind of left us with that's what it is in those cities. The biggest one was there won't be any stay-at-home orders and/or requirements for face masks, which were really kind of recommendations by the states, with cities coming up with rules. So that's changed. So I want to talk a little bit about the confusion. About a week ago, we had a lightening of it because retail could open, but they could only do curbside. So that was a new thing that we had, and so we had some enforcement issues because people wanted to go in the store and see those things. And so every time we do a lightening of the restrictions, we're going to see a little confusion and a little bit of where people are anxious to get in the stores, etc. So now this Friday, we're going from retail opening curbside to a little different phase that I want to talk about.
Right, and so what is happening on May 1st is that now we will be able to enter restaurants and retail establishments such as the mall and other stores, right, movie theaters. But
restaurants, that's a big one.
Right, the restaurants, but only at 25% capacity. Right. So it's, and still with social distancing. So talk about that and what that means for our community.
Right, so restaurants, retail will be open. You get to go in and make sure that you stay social distancing, and that's one of the reasons they did that of 25%, because it makes it easier for social distancing. So we use the fire marshal's rule. Fire marshal says there's a safe occupancy. That's for the purpose of getting out of a building, actually. And we thought, well, that's the best way of doing that. So what the restaurants out there and the people going into the stores need to know that what it's going to be is 25% of that. So if I had 100-person occupancy by the fire marshal, 25 people can go in there at any one time. So we have to figure that out. It's a little complicated. It takes longer for people to eat meals versus some restaurants or others, and so we have to work with them to figure out how they're going to maintain that 25%. But that's the rule. The restaurant can require a face mask if they want, or a retail if they want for customers, but that's totally up to them. We would certainly recommend it if you think it's don't be ashamed of wearing a mask still. I think that's still very important to do that. So the 25% rule is there. Now the standard's going to be that we don't have any peaks. In other words, we don't have, we let people go into stores, and all of a sudden now we see more and more cases or deaths or hospitalizations. We don't have an exact formula from the state, but generally it's, if we don't behave, we don't stay smart, we're going to see a closing of businesses as opposed to this phased-in opening.
So right now it's just this limited open of certain facilities, certain retail businesses, right, and restaurants that people will be able to enter. And of course, it is up to those privately owned businesses whether to open up. And so some may choose to not open up.
Right. Our downtown, we have a fantastic, not many cities have over 300 downtown stores operating, very few cities in the United States. Unfortunately, our downtown, we have a lot of local people, but there's a lot of people from Mexico like to frequent downtown. And so Mexicans are still restricted from coming here on visas, visitor visas. So we may not see as many people downtown as we would normally see in a regular time stand. So, but yeah, we're going to have an opening, and that'll be exciting. museums can open, and libraries. We're going to have a limited opening in our libraries, of course, and theaters can open. But we'll see if 25% is you can operate as under a profit. So we'll see how all that works. The ones that can open up are still barbershops, beauty parlors. Beauty parlor could open up, but couldn't do, it just as retail, they couldn't do any hairstyles or nails or anything like that. Bars, and barbershops, and gymnasiums. And those are generally businesses that you have to get closer than 6 feet just to operate the business. And so they'll be probably, we'll see about phase 2. The governor said on May 18th, we're going to take a look at where we are after phase 1. If we are smart and we protect ourselves, we'll go into phase 2, and we'll see what happens in phase 2. But that will be strictly up to the state.
McAllen, we will have our code enforcement officers out and about ensuring that all of these businesses are complying with these regulations, the rules that have been established by the state, and of course then Hidalgo County and City of McAllen will follow. If a resident has a concern, what should they do? Well,
they can call 311. And that's the best way of doing it. Our 311 operators are up, and they get the complaints, and they work with code enforcement and send them out. So if you have a complaint, we're going to voluntarily tell people, here's a list, the new state rules. We're going to ask them to post it in their business. So that's a good thing for 2 things. It's a service to the businesses, know what they have to do to operate. And it's also good for the customers who are coming in and saying, okay, what do they have to do? And they can see it around the wall if they're not doing it. They can report it. If they're doing it, they can feel fine, and hopefully it'll be safer for them.
And hopefully, I think most businesses want to comply, and it's just that there's new rules each time. So right now, we're going to be operating starting on May 1st with the soft reopening of these newer retail establishments that will be included into that fold of what was already essential services and those retail businesses that had been open before.
And there's businesses that don't quite fit the definition of retail or a restaurant that have questions about opening. And so the governor obviously couldn't cover every type of business in the state. So if you have questions, we'll try to answer them in our interpretation. If we can't get a good interpretation, we'll ask the state to help us. So there'll be some questions, and we've already had several businesses call up and say, well, I'm not really a gym, but I'm like this, and I can keep people separated. And so we're working through that. It's just not one size fits all. As far as restaurants go, a lot of restaurants have a bar within a restaurant, and their general rule is as long as 50% of your business was food, then you're considered a restaurant and have a restaurant permit from the city. That's just kind of the general rule, not only the city, but also for the Texas Alcoholic Beverage Commission. So, when you go into a restaurant, you're going to see a bar. And hopefully they'll restrict access to that. We don't want to turn restaurants into bars. It's not fair to existing bars, and it's not what the purpose of opening restaurants is for. So hopefully we'll have people that abide by it in a good, fair way, and won't have to intercede in that. So I'm sure we'll have people monitoring that, and so hopefully the most important thing is be safe.
That is most important. And so, Mayor, do you have any suggestions that you would like to give the residents as this soft opening happens?
There's nothing wrong with wearing a mask, and I would recommend it. It will protect you. And also, we have a lot of people that don't have symptoms that are carriers. It protects your fellow citizens. Keep 6 feet away. That's the best thing. You don't do those 2 things. That's the safest thing. And then for our business community to abide by the rules. We can't explain exactly everything. So just use good common sense. What the intention is to keep customers safe. So from a business standpoint, hopefully we'll do that, and we'll get into phase 2 and phase 3 and open up the city. It's such a great city. It's so sad to see businesses close, not only for the business owners but for the employees and those kind of things. So we need to put people back to work, but we need to do it safely.
Yes, we do need to do that safely, and obviously until there's a good treatment and vaccines or anything, we have to do our part to make sure that we're not spreading this virus. And so social distancing, masks, obviously maintaining proper hygiene. All of these are good tips that we can continue.
And one thing, be careful listening to social media, by the way. I'm on I'm on the city call at 10, county call at 12:30, the state call at 4, and then the government, United States, the White House Intergovernmental Affairs at 5. So I'm on 4 calls a day, and even on those, you hear a little different things. So, and they should be theirs are pretty accurate. So don't get all your news off of social media. It spreads like crazy. It's a lot of it's not true. Some of it's actually ill-defined and everything. And so, if you have questions, 311 is a great way. We have a city 311, and so you don't have to just do it for complaints. You can have questions.
Sure, and so that's actually, the City of McAllen has been very responsive and informative, and of course 311 is always a great service, as is our City of McAllen website, mcallen.net, and of course this channel, MCN 1300 on Spectrum Cable, and our City of McAllen social media handles. So we encourage everyone to continue following all of those, post questions, seek information, as we try to inform the community on the next steps as we continue through these phases as we deal with the COVID-19 pandemic.
And we did a survey of our citizens, actually. We paid for it, and it wasn't very expensive at all. And they want a safe opening. I think that's what everybody wants. They want to be open, but they want it to be safe. And
I think that's pretty much the consensus, everyone. Smart. And so we appreciate, Mayor, that you're coming in with your mask. We did make sure that we were 6 feet apart.
Yeah. I'll put it back on. It's just hard to...
Exactly. As we're talking, we have to be able to be heard and understood. But yes, we have our masks on. We've been, following all our CDC guidelines. And so we want to encourage our citizens to do the same. And of course, to stay with the City of McAllen here on this channel, MCN 1300, and of course on the website, McAllen.net, our social media handles, or 311, for all of the latest information regarding the City of McAllen and our response to the COVID-19. So, Mayor, anything else you'd like to add?
Be smart and safe out there. Thank you.
Thank you so much. This is on 1300. I'm Xochitl Mora for the City of McAllen.
Our team. Stories that count from people who care.